For him, the toughest part is the loneliness he endures in the mountains. It was painful to leave my parents because we do not even have the means to speak to one another. Sometimes we can call each other on a cell phone. It is tough, and when I want to walk home, I have to take a long journey.
Our hope is just to develop this country, because this is a very poor country. Maybe next time or next 2 or 3 years coming, there will be a difference from the shepherd.
The villagers say that the shepherds in this area can now read and write. Through the years, more than 500 boys have gone through Julius's school. He is especially proud of those who joined regular schools and finished their education.
An estimated 3.2 million children were living with HIV at the end of 2013, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa. Majority of them acquire HIV from their HIV-infected mothers during pregnancy, birth, or breastfeeding. Our next video shows how people are trying to change that.
The 30 women gathered here today share one common trait. They're all HIV positive, and they prefer to remain anonymous. All except one. Rachel Yamioko has been living with the disease for 24 years. She's been working with the Aide-moi être mère, or Help Me to Be a Mother organization since 2004, counseling HIV-positive women on how to guard against passing the virus onto their children. In Burkina Faso, 110,000 people are living with HIV according to UN estimates, 13,000 of which are children. Most of them are born with the virus, having contracted it from their mothers. AIDS is one of the most common causes of death among children under 5 worldwide, a death that could have been prevented.
When the mother is treated with antiretroviral drugs, the disease is suppressed so much that the risk of transmitting the virus is greatly reduced.
These drugs are provided free of charge by the Burkina Faso government. But many women do not allow themselves to be tested at all, because the fear of discrimination is too great.
If the test is positive, we have to support the woman. Women who test positive are often ostracized by their families. Most people don't understand the disease.
Education is one of the most important tasks of Rachel's organization. Today, she's offering pregnancy advice to make women aware of the issue. Whoever wants to can then be tested immediately afterwards as part of the subsequent examination.
I'm pregnant, so I have to take care of it. I want to know if I'm infected so I can be treated.
If the test is positive, the women are enrolled in a program that guides them through the pregnancy, childbirth, and breastfeeding. The woman treating them is nurse Agnès Tiombiano, who directs the maternity ward at Saint-Camille Hospital in Ouagadougou.
After birth, the women must come into the newborn ward with their babies, so that the babies receive the necessary treatment to prevent infection.
The treatment is part of a combination therapy. This prevents HIV viruses from entering the child's cells and protects the immune system against other diseases.
For the children who complete the treatment, we have a success rate of 100%.
Although there are improved methods for the prevention and treatment of HIV/AIDS, the disease remains dangerous as long as open discussion of the topic is impossible. Another young woman, who like all the others wants to remain anonymous, worries about her youngest son.
After he was born, I couldn't give him the medicine. I was afraid my mother-in-law would find out. She mustn't know that I'm sick.
Without the efforts of small organizations such as Aide-moi être mère, the World Health Organization's goal of ending the AIDS pandemic by 2030 would not be achievable. Rachel has every reason to be optimistic. Thanks to their support, 1,300 women have given birth to healthy children.
The work is important because the kids are healthy. When HIV positive women or couples have healthy children, it fills me with pride.
And that drives her to continue her work. From the hospital, Rochelle goes to her real job as librarian. Her work with mothers and children is voluntary.
Ten years ago, world leaders agreed to work together to stop the use of child soldiers. Progress has been made, but there are still child recruits in countries around the world. As many as 300,000 children are believed to be serving as soldiers in armed conflicts around the world, depriving them of a normal childhood and education. In Uganda, they're trying to rebuild the lives of former child soldiers.
Machetes in these hands had a horrifying effect not long ago, but now they are being used in a constructive way. These former northern Ugandan child soldiers were trained to maim and kill, but their nightmare has ended.
I've been abducted in 1995 when I was still 9 years. So I stayed there for 5 years and then I come back. They picked me from my parents and then we went with them. So they told my parents that let your sons go and assist us.
Alpha Obol and many others fought for the Lord's Resistance Army, or LRA. Today they repair bicycles and build houses, thanks to Aniwa Richard Ricky. Himself a former child soldier, he now helps those who managed to escape.
At the peak of the war, I realized that there were no people who were helping these former child soldiers if they come back from the bush. So I decided to offer myself to help these children to have a place where they can sleep, eat, and get a future, someone to talk to.
Most of them have spent many years fighting in the bush. Here at Richard Ricky's organisation, Friends of Orphans, they learn skills for their future lives and can process their trauma. These former soldiers and sex slaves are being trained to become hairdressers. Others become handymen.
So far, we was in 22 soldiers. Out of 22, 19 has been killed. So I survived among those. By the time I came back home, I've got my parents. This is part of LRS, they have killed them. So I came back, I got that they are not there.
Richard believes that only by giving back through community work, like fixing buses or cleaning streets, will these haunted youngsters have a future in society. Northern Uganda was terrorised by the LRA for a very long time, so ex-child soldiers are heavily stigmatised.
In this process, they reintegrate. And at the same time, the community look at these children that, oh, well, we thought these children were impossible, but these are children who just has problem and they need help.
Richard convinced national and international sponsors to invest in his project. Education and technical skills are the key for the former child soldiers to help earn their respect in society.
They begin to appreciate these children. And this is the message I've been telling the community through radio stations, through meeting and the community, that these children are our children. They were forcefully abducted from us, and we were the powerless to defend them.
In northern Uganda, over 30,000 ex-child soldiers have been given back a future and a life of joy by Friends of Orphans. At last, they have found a space to call home.
And we end today's episode with fashion. Fashion made in Nigeria. A young woman dressing babies and children.
This baby shop in Lagos, Nigeria could be anywhere on the planet. Pale colors, boring designs, cheap quality products. And Nkem Bego often struggled when she was looking for baby wear. This lack made her create her own brand. In 2014, she founded Always Me, a baby brand made in Nigeria.
You don't see anything that is really vibrant, and I mean, for babies especially, color stimulates their senses. And, you know, a lot of more parents now in Nigeria are also aware of the fact that, you know, there's stuff that's, you know, sensory items and things like that. So they want, you know, something that is different. They want something that is unique.
The market research she did proved that many Nigerian parents are prepared to spend on good quality clothing for kids. Almost every day, she can be seen scouting beautiful African prints in her favorite fabric shop. And it's this fabric shop where she gets her inspiration for the next designs.
For a small girl, so our clothes are so unique because we constantly change the print. So we don't produce like one print in 100 shorts. So we produce maybe like 3 or 4, and then we change the print to another print. African fabric, obviously, and African print is, you know, pretty in vogue at the moment as well. So it's a global trend that we're seeing even on the runways in New York Fashion Week. We've seen it in Paris Fashion Week. So, you know, I think there is a global hype.
The Always Me product line ranges from baby and maternity to lifestyle and fashion. Nkem's bestsellers are playmats, kids' shorts, nursing pillows, customized onesies, sensory cubes, and nursing covers, which she sells often to mothers directly at playgroups.
Each piece is an original. So we don't duplicate any pieces, we don't mass produce, everything is handmade. So, you know, we design everything in-house. We source the fabrics locally, all the craftsmanship is done locally. We don't import anything, you know, that is used for the mats.
Nkem currently runs 2 sewing workshops in private houses. In order to give back to the community, she hired 12 local craftsmen and women. Intensive training, supervision, and trust are the ingredients of her success. Soon, she will need to employ more women because of growing demand.
We're actually currently expanding into foreign markets. So we've got 2 stockists in the UK and we've got 3 stockists in South Africa at the moment. So 2017 is going to be all about expansion and all about, you know, getting more stockists in different countries and really focusing our effort into getting into some of the a little bit bigger but still boutique retail stores.
Nkem's business, Always Me, is part of a private sector-driven initiative that seeks to create a platform for Nigerian culture, even when it comes to baby dresses.
That's all on Africa on the Move this week. Show attention and give love to the children all around you, whether they're yours or not. Have a good week.
Hey, Anu!
Dad.
Look, I got something for you!
A football chassis?
Hey, Adu, come watch a game with your uncle and I.
Please, come. I'm okay, thanks.
The kind of person that you asked me to be. My brother say he love me, I love him too. I tell him I will do anything for you. But it's strange.
Did you see how many goals I scored?
I no get you.
I scored 2.
I look up like this, say who are you?
So Daddy, you showed those blues Pepe yesterday, right?
We sure did.
Those 3 points are sure for us today.
Remind me how.
The game's about to start. Quickly.
Tonight on Nigeria Decides.
You're watching Plus TV Africa and this is Nigeria Decides.
Join the conversation live at 6 p.m. through to 9 p.m. on Plus TV Africa on channel 308 on Star Time and also on YouTube at Plus TV Africa.
The Nigerian film industry, popularly known as Nollywood, is one of the largest export sectors in Nigeria. Nigerian movies are largely popular in Africa, where they currently outsell Hollywood films. As of 2014, Nollywood was worth $5.1 billion and makes up 5% of Nigeria's GDP. Over the years, Nollywood has embraced technology in distributing Nigerian movies with the advent and popularity of platforms such as Iroko TV, Scene One TV, and dedicated Nollywood YouTube channels. In addition, Nollywood has sold out more movies in Nigerian cinemas than Hollywood movies. While we await a more recent report on Nigeria's movie industry GDP, one can naturally expect an uphill climb with what the layman can clearly see.
The industry has evolved. We have a lot of upcoming young, beautiful, well-knowledgeable actresses. I call them actors as well.
Nollywood is an industry that comprises male and female actors. We have also seen the rise of female directors and producers in the last 2 to 3 years and can attest to their successes. Gender inequality in Nigeria is influenced by different cultures and beliefs. In most parts of Nigeria, women are considered subordinate to their male counterparts, especially in northern Nigeria. So, is gender inequality present in Nollywood?
It's vice versa. It's same. Men get roles, women get roles. It's actually better now. Before, it was most men had the roles way back. But now it's a lot better. In fact, I think women, the ladies, have more roles than the men now.
I think both sexes actually get opportunities, because like there was a movie without the other sex, you know, because a love story, you can't play like a love story with like two guys. It actually has to be like a girl and a guy.
Are men or women being marginalized? Do men have more opportunities than women?
A lot of women are in the industry. I think what we lack is a lot more men in industry, because it's really difficult casting, finding the right guy. And it is when you're trying to cast for a male character that you realize that we don't even have enough men.
I do not think that Nollywood discriminates against gender. There are other areas of discrimination, but gender isn't necessarily amongst them.
What is the disparity in earnings for a male lead role and a female lead role? How are the figures decided?
Prices vary based on a lot of things, based on popularity, based on the class of the actor. So you have the A-list, the B-list, the C-list, and what have you. But the prices are basically influenced by popularity and how celebrated the actor is.
As for pay disparity, nobody thinks they're getting paid what they should get paid.
Most fans are of the opinion that there is a gender bias in Nollywood, and going by the lifestyle portrayed by most Nollywood actresses on social media, it seems like they earn more money than their male counterparts. However, people are quick to raise eyebrows when an actress acquires and flaunts luxury items that range from the latest car to buying a mansion. Plus TV Africa's team spoke to the actors, and this is what they had to say.
I wouldn't say that, okay, female make more money than male guys, like male actors and everything, but I would say to each his own. You know, people actually invest in stuff. You know, I mean, like myself, besides acting, I have like 2 businesses as well. I run a security company, and I'm also into furniture as well.
Nollywood is not a place you come to make a fortune. Nollywood is the place you come to get fame, and then you hustle the fame into fortune.
There is something called packaging. And even the Bible says God looks at the heart, man looks at the outward. So therefore, if you are packaged in a certain way, you will be approached and treated in that way.
Because of the economic situation we find ourselves in, both the men and the women in Nollywood have other things that they do aside from apart from acting. So most women, you know, because of the way they have more freebies coming from people who love them online. It works both ways. I see a lot of male actors who look amazingly, in fact, they look actually very beautiful. I would say not just handsome, but they're beautiful and attractive. So I also have a lot of women who love them and probably treat them to a few gifts here and there. So it just works both ways.
Having listened to the actors, it's really difficult to say there is gender inequality in Nollywood.
evening, and thank you so much for joining us on Plus TV Africa. You're watching Nigeria Decides. I am Ife Aaron.
And I'm David Alabi. Today on the show, we will be talking about agriculture, definitely the potential and the problems that exist in the sector.
Yes, of course, the Nigerian agricultural sector has been under scrutiny for the past few years, even as the downturn in the oil sector became very evident. From 2014, we saw that the price of oil has been dipping. And that called attention to the fact that Nigeria had been operating a mono economy for so long and the need to go back home to agriculture.
And now, to farm or not to farm is no more a question anymore.
That's
that needs answer. It answers itself, definitely. But we'll also be looking at financing agricultural projects in Nigeria. We understand there's a long value chain and it needs massive investment. But do you think the populace or the government even have an understanding of how much of an investment we're supposed to be putting into this area to really have the dividends that come along with making agriculture a mainstay? Existence to which they make Nigeria stronger. Atiku again appealed to INEC and the security agencies to ensure free and fair elections. He recalled the words of former President Goodluck Jonathan, where he said that his ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. And in some other matters, the Code of Conduct Tribunal has ordered both the Inspector General of Police and the Director General of Police to arrest the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onoge. Delivering a ruling of the three-man tribunal, the chairman of the CCT, Danladi Umar, ordered the security agencies to produce Onoge at the tribunal on Friday. He dismissed the objection raised to the application for the issuance of the arrest warrant and ordered that he wants to see the defendant in the dock on Friday. The CCT had made the order following an application by the lead prosecuting counsel Ali Umar SAN, who said the consistent absence of the CJN from the CCT was a violation of provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Umar, who anchored his application for Onoge's arrest on Section 6, Subsection 1 of the Practice Direction of the CCT, also opposed the call on the three-man tribunal by the lead defense counsel, that's Chief Adegboyega Awomolo, and that's an SAN as well, to hear all pending application. Umar maintained that by virtue of Section 396 subsection 2 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015, no objection could be raised by the defendant until he took his plea. The prosecuting counsel said Onoge, having not taken his plea, the objection by him could not be heard. And the National Judicial Council on Wednesday constituted a five-man panel to investigate the allegation leveled against the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onoge, and the acting CJN, Justice Tanko Muhammad. The panel is to be headed by a retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice S.A. Akinton, who, like other members of the committee, is a member of the Council. NJC's Director of Information, Soji Oye, said in a statement that the Council took the decision after accepting the result of the preliminary assessment of the petitions written against the duo. He said the Council considered the petition to be worthy of further investigation and should not be terminated under Rule 17 of the Judicial Discipline Regulations of the Council. It added that a new petition was filed against Justice Muhammad Tanko by the Action People's Party, adding that the Council gave the acting CJN a brief 7 days for its comments. In other reactions, Dr. Olisa Agbakuba SAN has condemned the bench warrant issued by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. And still staying with legal matters, the Federal High Court in Lagos on Wednesday adjourned the trial of former Chief of Air Staff Adesola Amosu, a retired Air Marshal, and two others over alleged 21.4 billion naira fraud until March 6. The case was adjourned until March 6 and March 7 for the continuation of the trial, as the court presided over by Justice Chukwujekwu Aneke did not sit. Amosu was rearranged on November 13 last year alongside Jacob Adigun, a retired Air Marshal, and Olugbenga Gbadebo, a retired Air Commodore, on 13 counts bordering on the alleged offences. The three were first arraigned in June 2016 alongside some companies before Justice Muhammad Idris, who has been elevated to the Court of Appeal. They were consequently rearranged before Aneke, who is now the presiding judge over the case. On the first arraignment before Idris, they had pleaded not guilty to the charges, and on the re-arraignment before Aneke, they also pleaded not guilty to the charges. Aneke had allowed them to continue with their earlier bail granted by Idris. In the charge, the EFCC alleged that the defendants conspired to convert 21.4 billion naira, being the property of the Nigeria Air Force, noting that they ought to have known that the money was part of proceeds of a criminal breach of trust. And in aviation matters, the Accident Investigation Bureau has released the preliminary report of the helicopter accident involving the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The Commissioner, AIB Akin Olatoro, on Thursday said the investigation was still ongoing, but that, among other causal factors, the crew lost visual contact with the ground at landing due to a brownout. According to him, brownout is caused by landing in a dry, sandy environment. He noted that Calverton Helicopters Limited did not conduct site survey of the landing field prior to the flight and did not carry out safety and risk assessment. A helicopter conveying the Vice President to a campaign rally in Kogi State had crash-landed in Kaba on February 2. Radio's vital role of informing and reuniting people as well as conflict resolution has been reiterated as the world commemorates World Radio Day, marked on every 13th of February. Plus TV Africa captured the United Nations message and that of key players on radio in this report.
The role of radio to inform, to bring people and communities from all backgrounds together to foster positive dialogue for change has been reiterated as the world marks the 8th edition of World Radio Day.
Radio is a powerful tool. Even in today's world of digital communications, radio reaches more people than any other media platform. It conveys vital information and raises awareness on important issues. And it is a personal, interactive platform where people can air their views, concerns and grievances. Radio can create a community. For the United Nations, especially our peacekeeping operations, radio is a vital way of informing, reuniting and empowering people affected by war.
Plus TV Africa spoke to Wemimo Adewumi, a radio presenter in Lagos, on this year's theme of dialogue, tolerance and peace.
Through radio, we've opened dialogues about candidates, people being able to ask questions of these people that they hardly see, but they can hear them, ask them questions on many of the shows they listen to. Then, because we had a lot of fake news going on through the radio, we've been able to change the narrative, give them authentic information, what they really should know. So that way we stem conflicts on radio because people then can tune in. So you find something on your phone, probably on WhatsApp, you're not sure if it's true, but on the next news bulletin, you can know what the truth really is.
Also speaking, Collins Teke, who has been in radio business for years, says radio remains relevant despite fears of its place in an increasingly visual world. Adewumi agrees.
There's a fear that radio may end up going into extinction. No, that will never happen. It cannot happen, it would not happen, because radio's role still remains. In fact, it only gives it more responsibility.
In Lagos alone, we have over 30 radio stations. What does that tell you? We have new radio stations coming up every day. That tells you that radio is not going anywhere. People are listening to radio, now in different forms, some online, some on their phones, some in their cars. And in fact, there's a lot of new revolution going on. You have podcasts. I mean, these are all forms of transmission on mass media, and it's auditory.
While radio remains an important tool of communication, the UN, however, emphasizes the importance of broadcasts that provide a platform for dialogue and democratic debate over issues such as migration or violence against women, and can also help to raise awareness among listeners and inspire understanding for new perspectives in paving the way for positive action.
And away from Nigeria, we now shift focus to other reports from the rest of Africa. Uganda expects to begin producing oil in the year 2022. Its Energy Minister Irene Meloni said on Wednesday, indicating a slight delay from the East African country's revised target of 2021. Uganda discovered crude reserves more than 10 years ago, but production has been repeatedly delayed by disagreements with field operators over taxes and development strategy. A lack of infrastructure, such as transportation pipeline and a refining facility, have also held up output. In April last year, Uganda signed a deal with a consortium, including a subsidiary of General Electric, to build and operate a 60,000 barrel per day refinery that will cost between $3 billion and $4 billion. The refinery is expected to be operational by 2023. However, Maloney said landlocked Uganda, which imports refined fuel, would announce its next exploration licenses round in May this year. And on the international front, Afghanistan has dismissed 12 election officials amid an investigation into corruption following problems with the organization of a general election last year. Fears are growing that the purge could delay a July presidential election. President Ashraf Ghani's government agreed to an amendment of the election law to improve transparency following meetings with political, civil society groups and opposition parties. And a spokesman said the removal of the 12 was a consequence. Wasima Bagasi, one of the dismissed commissioners, said the decision was political and would not be accepted. The Attorney General's office said in a statement on Tuesday that the 12 officials were barred from leaving the country as an investigation had been launched into the accusations against them. The Transparent Election Foundation for Afghanistan, an independent election monitoring group, said the dismissals were a hasty political decision rather than a reform that would help the electoral process. And talking business now, the National Bureau of Statistics on Wednesday released the Capital Importation Report for 2018, with the economy attracted a total investment of about $16.81 billion during the period. The Bureau in the report stated that the investment inflow of $16.81 billion for 2018 represents an increase of $4.59 billion, or about 37.49%, when compared to the $12.22 billion attracted in the 2017 fiscal year period, explaining that the largest amount of capital importation was received through portfolio investment, which accounted for $11.8 billion, or about 70.20% of the total investment inflow. This, it noted, is followed by other investment, which accounted for $3.81 billion of the total capital, while foreign direct investment had $1.19 billion, or 7.11% of the total capital imported last year. And business news wraps up our news update. It's now time to go back to our election studio, where we talk about some serious matters: agriculture.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
We do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Brazilian, who with the longer blades that Austria wasn't too impressed with. 200 metres, but we must stress, absolutely legal.
Sounds of the surf.
Yeah. Now that he's a hater, I don't want no bad energy. Man get used by radar, you can't see my enemy.
And this time they are away, and Peacock goes away strongly.
She wants a man from London, she wants a fellow with felonies. That's not being my team. There's no I in it, I bring it on my team. Guessing it's all my team. Moving the bouncers, bounce when it's all my team. Who do you wanna never know? Don't be a sheep when you can be gold. Great, it's a good time and you never know. Don't show up to my show.
This is
Got no
absolutely marvellous.
energy.
That is how we get looped into a cycle of insanity, repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. That cycle of failure is unsustainable and it has to end now.
Perfection train is back.
They take us to the bush and start asking us to call our people to send money.
What can be done as an intervention for them right now to stop abuse of all children?
First point of accountability is asking questions.
Hello and welcome to Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Hi everyone, welcome to Plus Training.
You cannot continue to recycle poverty while you're spending a lot of money on unproductive ventures.
The government has to feel the impact.
Honorable Commissioner, sir, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Event is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Today's top stories are
And the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria. I'm here at Yunus Bashoru Street where
the fire destroyed our transformer complete castle. The lowest level you can.
Evander. This is Plus TV Africa. The big stories live here.
Big stories live here.
Big stories live here.
You're watching Plus TV Africa, and this is Tea Time. I loved the energy when I came in here. It was so positive. I was like, I can live here.
My real names are Akbofio Kubo, Akbolubo Memere.
I think my father is a comedian because most times when he calls me, he's like, yo, make sure you use condom, you know, them girls out there.
So are you telling me I should have shot my shots?
Ife, you have a younger brother. Age is nothing but a number. What? I'm a vampire.
I believe in equal rights for women, and I also believe that a man is the head of the house, so we need to draw our limits somewhere.
It feels so good. Now can I do my jam now?
Yeah, you can.
Thank you.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's Tea Time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
We do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Thank you very much for staying with us at Plus TV Africa. And if you're just joining us, well, this is Nigeria Decides. Now, the importance of agricultural supplies for the structural transformation accompanying economic growth often is stressed by development economists. Now, this led to the question, does agriculture financing matter in the growth process? What about the new tech platforms for agriculture? Do they truly provide financing for farmers?
Well, that is a critical question, and the conversation on agriculture is about to commence. We have our guest with us in the studio. Teleola Kola Edung is the program coordinator, Context Global Development, and we also have David Apenda, Agri Finance Department, Sterling Bank PLC. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now let's hit the ground running. How critical is finance for agricultural development? Let me start with you, Tele.
There is nothing that can happen in agriculture in Nigeria without financing. Currently, Nigeria is in the subsidiary stage of production in agriculture. We should have gotten to the point of commercial or the use of mechanization. But right now, we find that there's still a lot of smallholder farmers. And how do we push smallholder farmers? How do we push the economy from being a subsidiary-run farming system to a more commercial where we can start looking at importing or exporting rather? Now, the issue with that is that there is no money to push the value chains forward. farmers are not open or allowed to get funding more so through banking. It's really difficult, I would say, for funding to move through the value chains. But for value chains to be streamlined, there is a lot of fragmentation in our value chains. And for that to be streamlined, there is need for excessive funding to be pumped into these various value chains. Nigeria was once a giant in agriculture, and funding was available. A lot of resources were coming in at the time where Nigeria was on the top of the game in terms of cocoa, in terms of groundnut. But right now, we've shifted our focus to crude oil. And for us to go back to that place where our value chains are able to sustainably push an economy of export, we need financing to run through the system.
Now, David, quickly now, to farm or not to farm is no longer a relevant question. I believe you would understand that. And a recent report revealed that Nigeria has arable land of about 84 million hectares.
That's correct.
But for us to be able to utilize this, financing comes into question. So what do we really need in terms of having the structure to push this?
Okay, thanks for your question. Agriculture is very key. It's key to the development of any economy. Agriculture is important. That's a no-brainer. But for agriculture to thrive, for farmers to do what they need to do, for us to move from subsistence to commercial production of agricultural produce, we need financing. And in Nigeria today, agriculture is highly underfunded. I think we have the lowest funding levels across the globe. And Nigeria, sub-Saharan Africa generally, but Nigeria in particular. So today we have over 10 million smallholder farmers who struggle to get financing to do what they need to do. The kind of structures that would work we'll be looking at the various stakeholders to do this for us. Typically, the government is key to making agriculture very attractive, to driving funds to this sector, but also the private investors like the commercial banks and the other financial institutions also have a role to play in all this. But I think if the right foundation is laid via the government, then it might now encourage
the government, in line with the CBN, also actually approved the disbursement of about 75 billion under the Nigerian incentive-based risk sharing in agricultural lending. Now, you work within the banking sector as well, with a focus on agriculture. How do you see this scheme working in favor of the farmers?
Okay, so the NISA scheme is a welcome development, and honestly, it has really helped in the banks availing funds to farmers. Typically, what NISA does is they incentivize or they give the farmers credit guarantee. So, if you're talking about the NISA Anchor Borrowers program, which Sterling Bank unfortunately was the first bank to push for it, until now we have one of the strongest partnership with NISA in availing thousands of farmers financing. What they do normally is when you are to give farmers funds, NISA comes in and gives guarantee to probably the tune of 75% for smallholder farmers, and if you are probably a medium-sized farmer, you can get 50% guarantee. If you're a big player, you get lower than that. So with that comfort, the bank knows that their exposure is not so much. So if out of probably 1 million naira I'm supposed to give farmers a particular farmer $1 million, and NISA is guaranteeing 75%, that means over 750,000 naira is already covered for. So my exposure will just be 250,000 naira. So whatever happens, so that kind of conversation. But again, 75 billion is earmarked for that. It's way too small. So the bank can only play as much as the funds are available.
Now, let me take you back to 1960 before we move forward, because we know at the time when we attained independence, agriculture was the mainstay of the economy. And at the time, we had 63% of our GDP coming from agriculture. Now we are at a place where 80% of consumables in Nigeria are imported. Beyond NISA, what else can we do? What does the Bank of Industry essentially do for us to have a better agricultural system? Let me come to you, Temi.
Okay, before I jump into that question, I would like to bring us a little bit back on the question of NISA. We have the issue of, for NISA to fund, the system must be streamlined. Meaning, we must have someone that is going to offtake. We have the farmers, we have those that are intermediary players, but there is someone that is crucial to offtaking maybe a big processor, a multinational, a global, right? Now, if I push a value chain that there is no major processor, NARSO cannot fund that value chain, even though that value chain is critical to feeding Nigeria and potentially a crop that would institutionalize or push our export. But because it is not streamlined, NARSO cannot guarantee that kind of value chain.
Can you give us an instance?
I'll give you one that I'm working on currently. We're working with yam. Now, it's very difficult because yam is it's not a completely commercialized, mechanized crop, right? And so it's expensive if you're going to be working on this crop. Now, we don't have a major player the way we have in cassava. Now, in cassava, you can list so many processors, right? We have agro-allied, you have sultry, you have flour mills, you have, I mean, the list goes on
and
in
on.
terms of processors that are desperately looking for cassava. But now, when you're talking about yam, how many people do we talk about? Look at yam flour, ola. How much is it to do a bag of ola? Okay. Right? If yam is expensive, how much is a bag of ola? Maybe like, let's say, for argument purposes, let's say it's 1,500. When yam is expensive, how much is one yam? To now talk of making a whole bag of 5 kg. Does the processor make the money back?
So simply put, you're saying that we don't have an integration of end-to-end agriculture value chain where we have all of these key players.
And that is why it is important for us to look beyond NERSAL. That is why I mentioned, don't we also have the Bank of Agriculture? What do they essentially do in Nigeria presently?
Now, the issue of Bank of Industry, yes, you will
agriculture.
Well, Bank of Agriculture, you have some cases where people say it works. It worked for them. But honestly, I'm not a political person, but I do believe that Bank of Agriculture has made some substantial progress in terms of smallholder farmers, but I don't believe they have made the level of impact that they can make. Farmers have to bring collateral, farmers have to bring all kinds of things to justify funding. You do realize these farmers don't have anything. All they have is this farm that they are potentially loaning or leasing. You know, many of them don't own these farms. So the problem then becomes, what are we doing to ensure all these banks are fantastic, but they're still banks. They still have to make some kind of money back. They're not a charity case, right? So now what is it that we can do to incentivize as government? What can we do to incentivize these institutions, Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry, whatever the case might be, to look at these small players or potentially these large players that can come in as an off-taker or potential exporters.
So in your own proposal, what would you say we should do to get things right?
Well, for starters, it's important for us to look through each value chain. There are some value chains that are highly fragmented, but they're very important for the economy, right? Now we have to look through what are the potential loopholes, where are these opportunities that lie within this value chain. Now take for instance in Iseyin, there's so many things being produced there.
That's in Oyo State.
In Oyo State. Why can't the government put a whole processing plant there to process maybe cassava, to process yam, where these farmers can come in and say, okay, you know what, buy it from us. Let us make something, buy it from us, be our steady source. But when they have to carry it, and going back to a conversation we were having earlier, these crops are perishable. There is nothing the government has put in place to ensure that these crops can last beyond the life cycle of their lifespan.
So quickly now, Talia and David, do you think we need more public-private sector initiatives like we have the NERSAL, or you expect that we should continue to leverage on this initiative that we've already had kickstart since 2013?
Okay, I feel there's need for more collaborative work, and all entities need to take more responsibility. I'll tell you what we're doing in Sterling Bank. There's a commodity exchange we've launched. It's called SABEX, Sterling Afex Binkabi Exchange. What that is supposed to do is to help smallholder farmers deposit their commodities in the warehouses, and then from the commodities they've deposited, they can ask for loans, and then, you know, that solution will really bring more funds to smallholder farmers and probably stop post-harvest losses. Now, why is this important? The bank is taking a bold step because you know the government cannot do it alone. Now, if you have commodities, grains typically stored in warehouses, and then want to do it like what the Nigerian stock is doing with stocks, so people can now come and trade. So, for instance, you might probably not be interested in agriculture, you don't do primary production, but you've seen that there are commodities listed on the exchange. You can just go, let me trade for 6 months. That would drive private investment into the sector, and that's the work Sterling Bank is doing in this regard.
Okay, now Tele, let's talk about the bills pending before the National Assembly. We know, of course, that there's a warehouse bill and there's also the fertilizer seedlings bill, because farmers need to produce produce crops that are very strong, crops that would be, so it's not about just planting and not getting anything from it. It's about having quality products that can sell even in the international market. So the bills are still pending and we are faced with an election. Where do we stand now?
Nigerian politics makes me laugh, honestly, because once the incumbent leaves, policies kind of die down. What I would say to this is that our government officials, those that we are electing, our leaders, we need to look beyond our own selfish interests. People are dying, people are hungry, there's a large number of unemployment. The fertilizer bill, the warehouse bill, the Seed Act bill, these are going to help smallholder farmers. Now, is government ready to put aside politics, biases, party politicking, and say, okay, we need to do something to enhance the life of these people? Agriculture is where Nigeria is going to go in the next couple of years. Really. And so if things are not being put aside, selfish ambitions being put aside and say, let's push this bill. It's been in the parliament or in legislature for too long.
That's true.
It's too long. How many years? Buhari said he was going to help us and push it forward.
But don't you think some school of thought will also say that, well, for this to be attractive enough to our legislators and also to have presidential assent, we have to focus, or these farmers have to focus on areas of comparative advantages and push for value addition. So this goes beyond just the basic hoe and axe and other basic tools. Don't you think the conversation has to be more attractive for government to see a need to push this bill?
Yeah, so typically there's a difference between seed and then the normal inputs farmers use in producing. So if what happens today is, if you're not really enlightened as a farmer, probably what
sort of structures, plans of actions, vision do you think the cooperative society should be into to look more attractive to anybody that is ready to invest?
And it becomes who is managing those cooperatives. The incentive is only driven by who manages.
Welcome to Plus Training.
Absolutely legal. Sounds of the surf. Yeah.
Missing. To start with, agriculture starts with farming.